32 minutes, 27 seconds remaining before we're prepared to eject Magellan out of the payload bay and send the spacecraft on its way to Venus.
Atlantis, Houston, we lost you there for a minute while you were maneuvering.
Roger, we can go 5 by now.
It's Mission Control, Houston, aboard Atlantis. The payload retention latch is now being released. The next step will be the transfer of internal power to the inertial upper stage. Magellan will also go on IUS power shortly thereafter, and then the tilt table will be raised to 29 degrees elevation. So far, latches 1 and 2 have been released. And we now have the report that all 5 of the payload retention latches have been released. Mission Control, 5 hours 47 minutes, MET. Sunnyvale has reported the transfer of internal power to the IUS is underway. IUS is going on her batteries. That'll be followed by Magellan batteries going online, and Magellan drawing power also from the inertial upper stage. Thereafter, the tilt table will be raised to 29 degrees. Next step after that, we'll be raising the tilt table to 52 degrees. Currently 25 minutes 54 seconds prior to the deploy of Magellan. Mission Control, Sunnyvale has just confirmed the IOS is on internal power, standing by for the Magellan batteries to be commanded online. Mission Control Houston, we can now confirm Magellan is drawing power from the inertial upper stage. Next step will be elevating the tilt table, and then Magellan's batteries will be commanded online. Mission Control Houston, 5 hours, 54 minutes mission elapsed time, and Sunnyvale is now confirming first motion of the tilt table up to the initial position of 29 degrees. That will be followed.
Payloads, we're at 29 degrees on internal power.
Roger that, Mark. Thanks.
Mission Control at 5 hours, 54 minutes, 25 seconds mission elapsed time. Mission Specialist Mark Lee radioed down from Atlantis confirming that the tilt table had reached its initial position of 29 degrees and that the inertial upper stage was on internal power. The next step will be to command the Magellan batteries online, and that procedure is underway now. First POC command from JPL just went up a couple of seconds ago.
Atlantis, Houston, you have a go for deploy of the Magellan spacecraft.
Copy, go for deploy, Pierre, and at 29 degrees, everything is really looking good.
Okay, thanks, Mark. We're watching.
Mission Control Houston, now about 17 minutes remaining before the deploy of Magellan. The crew has just been given a go by Mission Control for deploy of Magellan. At that time, Flight Director Milt Heflin instructed Capcom to give the crew a go and said, Capcom, it's time to let Magellan spread her wings. Magellan's batteries are online. IUS has been transferred to internal power. The tilt table is at 29 degrees. Shortly we'll be going to 52 degrees for the final deploy attitude. This is Mission Control. Houston, IUS Magellan is now a standalone spacecraft, still in the payload bay of Atlantis. At 5 hours 58 minutes, however, umbilical separation between the orbiter and the IUS Magellan stack was confirmed. Now about 14.5 minutes remaining before the deploy. This is Mission Control at 6 hours even into the flight of Atlantis and Magellan. Sunnyvale is reporting tilt table motion from an elevation of 29 degrees up to 52 degrees, the final deploy elevation. Next major step once the tilt table reaches that attitude will be the deploy itself.
Houston, Atlantis.
Go ahead, Atlantis.
Okay, we're changing the weight on the burn solution. to 2049013 for the pad, and then we're going to load them up.
Roger that, and we see the IUS is at 52.7.
Thank you much.
This is Mission Control Houston at 6 hours 4 minutes. Sunnyvale flight confirmed that the inertial upper stage and Magellan aboard the tilt table are now raised to an elevation of 52 degrees in the payload bay of Atlantis. Upcoming now in 9.5 minutes, the deploy of the spacecraft. Magellan weighs nearly 4 tons, stands 21 feet high, and is 15 feet wide. And is perched atop the inertial upper stage, which will provide its initial propulsion on the fall toward the sun and a rendezvous with Venus. The only bad news we have to report here from Mission Control is that the television we had hoped to obtain through Hawaii on Orbit 5 has been canceled. That was intended to bring us views of the pre-deploy activities aboard Atlantis. Unfortunately, the payload interrogator is on, and one of the flight rules says that when that RF link has been established, we are unable to activate the FM TV system. So we're sorry, we had hoped to see that. We do, however, anticipate seeing some videotape of the deploy following that event. It's now scheduled to come up in about 8 minutes 14 seconds, and following that we'll be standing by for some Magellan deploy videotape. So far, all going very well aboard Atlantis and with both the IUS and Magellan. About 15 minutes after deploy of the spacecraft, the Atlantis will maneuver away from that position so that she will be at a safe distance when the first solid rocket motor ignition takes place on the inertial upper stage that will begin the journey of Magellan. And the burn that Atlantis will execute will be a burn out of both orbital maneuvering system engines, giving a change in velocity of 31 feet per second and result in a orbit for Atlantis about the Earth of 178 by 160 nautical miles. Currently, Atlantis is at 160 nautical miles circular. Six minutes, 45 seconds now before the deploy of Magellan. It's Mission Control Houston, 3.5 minutes now before the deploy of Magellan. All still going very well here in the control center in Houston and at the satellite control facility at Sunnyvale and at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, where 3 teams of flight controllers are watching their data carefully. No systems anomalies to report at this point in the deploy countdown. The deploy will take place due south of California, in direct line of sight of Goldstone, one of the primary 3 antenna stations of the Deep Space Network. Magellan will leave Atlantis within line of sight of Goldstone, which is hardwired to the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. The other 2 antennas at Madrid and Canberra in the Deep Space Network maintain satellite links to the United States and to the control center at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Magellan will be the 6th spacecraft the United States has sent to study Venus. The first to arrive there was Mariner 2 in 1962. It measured the temperature of the surface of Venus and determined that there was no magnetic field there. The Soviet Union has sent 15 probes to Venus, including radar mapping missions. Balloons have been let loose in the upper atmosphere, and Venera landers have photographed the surface before heat and pressure ultimately destroyed those probes. In 1967, the U.S. probe Mariner 5 flew by the planet, and in 1973, Mariner 10 returned the first television pictures of Venus. Pioneers 12 and 13, the last planetary probes launched by the United States, took pictures and returned scientific data in 1978. Pioneer 13 released 4 atmospheric entry probes into the upper atmosphere of Venus and returned data from the atmosphere and the surface. It also verified the presence of sulfuric acid in the clouds of the Venusian atmosphere. Mission Control Houston, 25 seconds remaining before the deploy. The Guidance Navigation Control Officer reports good attitude, good rates aboard the Atlantis, which will provide a stable platform for the launch of Magellan.
Magellan is deployed.
Roger that, Atlantis.
This is Mission Control Houston, Commander Dave Walker aboard Atlantis, confirming Magellan is deployed and on the way to Venus. Deploy took place at about 6 hours, 14 minutes, and 20 seconds mission elapsed time. This is Mission Control, all quiet here and on the internal communications loops linking the Mission Control Center with the Jet Propulsion Lab in Sunnyvale. No chatter at this point, which is a good sign. People still watching their data. But all looked very good with the deploy of Magellan at about 6 hours, 14 minutes, 20 seconds mission elapsed time. Atlantis still retaining good lock with the Magellan through its payload interrogator, and that will continue for several nautical miles as the two spacecraft drift apart. And we're now coming up in about 12.5 minutes on the separation burn that Atlantis will shortly execute to move away from Magellan in preparation for the firing of the solid rocket booster aboard the inertial upper stage and the first real beginnings of the trip to Venus, which will take about 15 months. This is Mission Control, Houston. Now about 4.5 minutes since the deploy of Magellan. Next major event will be the unfurling of the solar arrays aboard the spacecraft. 15 square yards of solar panels will power the Magellan instruments with more than 1,000 watts during the journey to Venus and the ensuing operations there. Meanwhile, Sunnyvale Flight has reported an updated official time for the deploy. He reports the deploy took place at 6 hours, 14 minutes, and 29.29 seconds mission elapsed time. This is Mission Control. Atlantis now maneuvering to the burn attitude for the separation from the vicinity of Magellan. That will be followed about 50 minutes from now by the ignition of the Star 48B solid rocket motor on the inertial upper stage. That motor will propel Magellan toward Venus. The motor will be used once to place the spacecraft into a trans-Venus injection, and then the casing for that motor will be ejected after it is used. The second part of the propulsion system consists of hydrazine thrusters, which will be used to correct the trajectory, trim the orbit during mapping, and provide attitude control when the reaction wheels used to control the spacecraft's attitude are being slowed down to get rid of excess momentum. Magellan has 24 thruster rockets used for trajectory correction and attitude control. 8 of them have 100 pounds of thrust each. 4 of the thrusters have 5 pounds of thrust each, and 12 have just 0.2 of a pound of thrust. They're clustered in modules on the ends of the outrigger booms that provide extra leverage in moving the spacecraft and save on propellant. The largest rockets are used to control rotation of Magellan during orbit insertion and other major maneuvers. While at Venus, Magellan will be kept in proper attitude relative to the planet by 3 spinning reaction wheels. They function as gyroscopes with 1 wheel for each of the spacecraft's 3 axes, pitch, roll, and yaw. Once in each orbit, they must be despun to get rid of excess momentum, and the smallest thrusters are used to control the attitude of the spacecraft while those wheels are despun.
Houston, Atlantis for payload. Houston, Atlantis.
Go ahead, Atlantis.
Okay, Pierre, we watched the solar arrays deploy. They came out real quick. They're all out. We've got the tilt table is currently down at minus 6 degrees. And as you'll probably recall, we deployed on time.
Roger that, Mark. We copy all that. Good work. And we'll be handing over to Tidris East in about a minute, so we may lose you for a short time.
This is Mission Control. That was Mission Specialist Mark Lee aboard Atlantis, telling the ground that the deploy was very smooth and that the tilt table is now back to its stowed position of elevation of minus 6 degrees. Meanwhile, we're standing by for telemetry confirmation of the deploy and locking of the solar panels on Magellan. Also, Atlantis now in the burn configuration, burn attitude for the separation maneuver, coming up in about 3 minutes, 5 seconds.
Atlantis, Houston, we're with you now through Tidris East.
Okay, we're with you, getting ready for the burn.
Roger that, we're looking over your shoulder.
This is Mission Control. The propulsion systems officer reports Atlantis burning, and the separation burn so far looks good. Both OMS motors fired, and the burn now complete. Propulsion reports.
Houston, Atlantis, configured for throughput commanding at this time.
Roger that, Mark, thanks. Atlantis, Houston, we'll maybe off the nose shortly with TDRS, so we may lose you for a little while. Atlantis, Houston, we can confirm for you that the Magellan Sequence 2 is in progress.
Roger, that's great.
This is Mission Control, Houston. That call from Mission Control to the crew aboard Atlantis confirms that the second major step in the bringing to life of the Magellan spacecraft is successfully underway. That's Sequence 2. That began with the issuance of discrete command number 2. That command designed to enable the solar panel control and battery and propulsion systems control from the ground. We're now at a mission elapsed time of 6 hours 40 minutes. All still going well aboard both the Atlantis and Magellan. The inertial upper stage, meanwhile, has begun to seek an attitude for thermal control. Shortly, the orbiter will assume a position for viewing an attitude maneuver by the IUS when it goes to a local vertical, local horizontal attitude. The flight dynamics officer calculates that by mission elapsed time of 6 hours 59 minutes, Atlantis and Magellan should be about 13.2 nautical miles apart. That's in another 19 minutes or so. This is Mission Control Houston, 6 hours 44 minutes mission elapsed time. The next television on this mission of STS-30, the Magellan Atlantis mission, will be an unscheduled status briefing with John Grafati, the Magellan project manager. That briefing will begin at briefing will take place at 10:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, originating from the Building 2 briefing room here at Johnson Space Center. And correction, that won't be the next TV event. The next thing we hope to see will be some views from Atlantis, videotape of the deploy sequence itself. We'll give you a status on that television when it becomes available. Again, a status briefing has been planned with John Grafati, the Magellan project manager, for 10:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time this evening.
Atlantis, Houston, have a switch throw for somebody on panel A12.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Mary. Good to hear you. We noticed when the APU-2 GG bed heater was taken to A auto that we didn't see the heater come online. So what we'd like you to do is take APU gas generator fuel pump 2, switch to off, then back to A auto, then to off, and then back to A auto. And then we'll take a look at it and see if the heater comes on.
Off mark. A auto mark. Off mark. A auto mark.
Okay, we'll take a look at it now and see if the heater comes back on. We don't want you to switch to the B heater at this time. Just leave it in A for now.
Okay, we copy that. Thanks.
Atlantis, Houston for Mary.
Go ahead, Houston, we'll relay to Mary.
Okay, or if somebody's up on the flight deck there, we'd like them to check that switch one more time. And we had a situation once before where a switch had a false detent and it felt like it was in the correct position, but in reality it wasn't. We'd like you to just check that APU2 GG bed fuel pump heater switch and just press it up real hard into A auto because we're not seeing any response.
Okay, we've got the Hulk pushing on it and it's not going anywhere.
Roger that. Atlantis, Houston, we see Magellan Sequence 2 is complete.
We copy.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're inside 20 minutes now from the initiation of the burn on the Star 48B motor on the inertial upper stage. The IUS burn will take place at a mission elapsed time of 7 hours, 18 minutes.
Go ahead, Dave.
And we're getting repeated sort of intermittent camera overtemps on Spec 76. All our payload bay cameras are turned off, and we still seem to be picking up overtemps.
Okay, Dave, we'll take a look at that. Atlantis, Houston, I've been informed that those camera or Spec 76 comm messages could be caused by a VTR operation. Can you confirm that you're working with that?
Yeah, we are looking at the VTR. Maybe that is it.
Okay, that's what we believe is causing that. Atlantis, Houston, we're pretty sure that that's what's causing those messages. We do have a capability to send a command to inhibit that, but that will also inhibit any real messages coming from your cameras when you turn them on. So it's your call.
No, we'll live with it for a while. Thanks.
Okay, sounds good.
This is Mission Control Houston. The Flight Dynamics Officer here in Mission Control reports the distance separating the IUS Magellan stack from Atlantis is now 13.1 nautical miles. Shortly, Atlantis will be going to the window protect attitude in preparation for the burn of the inertial upper stage attached to Magellan. This is Mission Control Houston. At 6 hours, 59 minutes mission elapsed time, Atlantis moved outside of a distance separating the two spacecraft. Magellan and Atlantis separated now by more than 13.2 nautical miles. Therefore, control of Magellan has now been transferred to Sunnyvale Flight by Houston Flight Director Milt Heflin. Sunnyvale responded, "Thanks for the ride, Houston," and Magellan concurred.
Atlantis, Houston have a question on tags for you.
Okay, we're listening.
Okay, Dave, we noticed during activation that the developer had a jam. If you guys haven't already done so, we need you to run MAL 2.8 alpha, page 2-59 of the MAL book.
Okay, hang on a second.
Okay, Pierre, when we activated it, it had the jam light. I advanced it once. The sheet came out, and the jam light went away. Has it subsequently jammed since that time?
Stand by. And Mark, we believe it has jammed since then. Atlantis, Houston, how do you read?
Loud and clear now.
Okay, we'll be dropping in and out. We're getting close to Tedra's handover. We do need you to check that. That should have occurred after you've already advanced the paper. And we'll pick you up on Tedra's west at a time of 7 hours and 17 minutes.
Okay, Pierre, we'll see you there.
Atlantis, Houston, we also have you now through UHF IOS.
Okay, copy that, Pierre.
And we'll have you till 7:11.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're acquiring signal now through the Indian Ocean Station. Telemetry being received from Magellan and IUS also through Indy. And the orbiter Atlantis currently is at the proper window protect attitude. The position she will maintain throughout the inertial upper stage burn coming up shortly for the IUS and the Magellan stack.
Atlantis, Houston, 1 minute till LOS, IOS will pick you up on the West Tidris at 7:17.
This is Mission Control Houston. Inside 5 minutes now remaining before the inertial upper stage solid rocket motor ignition. Magellan flight confirms that an airborne ranging and instrumentation aircraft has been dispatched by the United States to that area over the Indian Ocean where the burn will take place, over which the burn will take place. And we hope to be able to confirm through the services of that aircraft telemetry that would give us some sense of the status of the burn, how it went, and what its duration was. And we'll bring you that information that comes into the control center. This is Mission Control Houston. Sunnyvale flight reports ARIA acquisition of the Magellan IUS stack. ARIA, again, is an acronym standing for Airborne Ranging and Instrumentation Aircraft, and that will be monitoring telemetry from the spacecraft during the IUS burn. This is Mission Control Houston. Sunnyvale flight reports the SRM-1 burn aboard the inertial upper stage began at a mission elapse time of 7 hours, 14 minutes. We're standing by for completion of the burn and a status report. Nominally, that burn is scheduled to last for 169 seconds.
Atlantis Houston with you now through Tidris West.
Atlantis, roger.
And Dave and the rest of you folks, SRM-1 occurred on time and is complete.
That is wonderful.
Okay, and while it's still fresh in your minds, we'd like you to try to give us, if possible, an ascent debris report and the condition of your forward windows if you get a chance for that sometime.
Okay, Pierre, we'll give you this kind of free association. Prior to SRB set, there were a couple of fairly large pieces of debris that seemed to come by the port side that were visible by out my windows by both me and Ron. It looked as though there was quite a bit of debris associated with SRB SEP and a substantial flash. We do have a white film over all of our windows, predominantly on the forward pilot commander's windows, getting less as you work your way around towards the side windows.
Okay, Dave, we copy all that.
Was substantially, to those of us that have experienced before, more violent, although I hesitate to use that word because it still isn't a violent thing, but it wasn't the very soft separation that we thought we had previously remembered from the ET. And other than that, I don't think we have anything very significant to report. Just a little bit more activity than we expected.
Okay, Dave, we copied all that. Thanks. Atlantis, Houston, we have a good stage 1 and 2 SEP and SRM2 ignition.
Well, we are as pleased as we can be about that.
Roger that.
Mission Control Houston, unofficially we show the times for the initiation of the first solid rocket motor burn. First stage of the IUS was at 7 hours 14 minutes mission elapsed time, concluding at 7 hours 17 minutes MET. Following that, there was a good separation between the first and second stages on the IUS, with SRM2 ignition beginning at 7 hours 20 minutes MET. Standing by for confirmation of the end of the second burn.
Atlantis, Houston, SRM2 complete.
Houston, Atlantis, we're glad SRM2 is complete, and while we realize that it's too early to tell about the major portion of Magellan's mission, we're very pleased that it's gone so well so far, and we're sure the JPL folks are happy. We're as happy as they are.
Roger that, Dave, and everybody else down here feels the same.
Houston, Atlantis, we're going to go ahead and maneuver to our next starline attitude if it meets with your approval.
Okay, stand by 1 day. Let me check on that. Okay, Dave, you have a go for that.
Houston, Atlantis.
Go ahead, Mary.
It appears after looking with a flashlight that we have a paper jammed pretty far back in tags, and it's going to be delicate, so we'll just wait till we get the two hands on, and that may not be tonight.
Okay, we understand. Atlantis Houston, Magellan sequence 3 is complete.
Okay, we copy, Pierre.
Atlantis Houston, have a note for you on your fuel cell purge you're going to do during pre-sleep.
Okay, Pierre, ready to copy the note.
Okay, Dave, due to what we saw on STS 29 with Cryo Tank 3, we'd like you to do the fuel cell purge as soon as you can in pre-sleep. And we want you to use the auto procedure orbit ops page 6-7. Once you've completed the purge, we'd like you on panel R1 to take the O2 and H2 tank 3 heaters, A and B, 4 of them to auto. Then the O2, H2 tank 2 heaters, A and B, 4 to off. And the O2, H2 manifold valve, tank 1, 2 switches to close.
Okay, Pierre. Understand you want the fuel cell purge done ASAP in pre-sleep. You want to use the auto procedure. When it's through, we take the O2 and H2 tank 3 A and B heaters, all 4 switches to auto. The same switches on tank 2 go to off. And the O2 manifold switch for tank 1 goes closed. And H2, excuse me, O2 and H2.
That's good copy, Dave. Atlantis Houston, got a couple more notes for you regarding pre-sleep. When you do your LIO can change out and you take out can number 1 and replace it with can 3, we'd like you to take the can 3's bag and insert can 1 into that bag and seal with gray tape. The rationale here is that that can is not fully saturated and we can use it in a contingency situation later if required.
Okay, Pierre, we'll do that.
Okay, also, no water dump will be required pre-sleep. And can you have someone confirm for us that closeout has been complete?
Okay, Mark confirms closeout's complete. We understand no water dump.
Roger that.
This is Mission Control Houston, 7 hours, 35 minutes mission elapsed time. Great deal has been happening here in the last couple of minutes as housekeeping for the pre-sleep activity gets underway aboard Atlantis. Meanwhile, Magellan is coming to life. Discrete sequences 1 through 3 have been completed. Discrete sequence 4 is now underway. Also, both of the solid rocket motor burns have successfully taken place. Magellan is on the proper path toward Venus, falling toward the sun as we speak. The discretes are commands which begin to switch on various major systems aboard Magellan. These include such commands as venting the propulsion system, turning the S-band transmitter on, firing some of the pyros that control some of the second stage SRM-2 separation procedures. The star scanner will be going on with this discrete 4 series of commands that are now underway. And shortly, as Magellan separates from planet Earth, she will come alive and begin the free fall, 15-month free fall to Venus. Also, we had questions about the Orion aircraft. Those typically are U.S. Air Force aircraft that are configured to take telemetry. They fly out of Vandenberg, and generally the architecture of the aircraft is such that it's either a modified 707, an RC-135, or a modified Lockheed Electra, in this case a Neptune. We're not exactly sure which exact type of aircraft was out over the Indian Ocean to receive the Magellan telemetry during the first solid rocket motor burn. Also, we finally have gotten confirmation that Magellan's solar panels were latched after the deploy. That was one of the confirmations that we never got exactly on time in the checklist for post-deploy, but that has taken place, and Magellan Flight has confirmed the health of the solar panels aboard Magellan.
Atlantis, Houston. The INCO will be shortly, very soon, turning power amp system 1 to off.
Roger.
Atlantis, Houston, one more bit of news on Magellan. We've confirmed spacecraft SEP from the SRM-2.
Pierre, say it again, please.
We've confirmed Magellan separation from stage 2.
That's great.
It's on its way.
You should be able to maneuver yourself to a pretty good party somewhere this evening.